And if the real reason you're still single isn't because something's wrong with you, but because God is saving you for something so big that the world still wouldn't understand. There is a voice that whispers in the ears of many single women telling them that they are incomplete, that they are missing something, that they are alone. Francis, with his characteristic pastoral sensitivity, often points out that too often this lie has sunk deep into the hearts of those who, looking at their empty left hand, have hoped that a ring would give them courage or that the arrival of a man would complete their story. But he raises a question that pierces the soul. Since when did God create women to have their dignity dependent on anything less than their divine purpose? Francis has tenderly insisted that no woman who walks with God is incomplete. No one who lives in his presence is delayed in her destiny. There is no void in his soul nor absence that only human hands can fill. If a woman is single, it is not because she has been forgotten, it is because she has been intentionally set aside. The scriptures show us women who stood firm in their faith, who walked strongly, and fulfilled their calling long before they were married or even without marriage. Esther, before being queen, was chosen by God. Ruth, before meeting Boaz, was faithful. Mary, the mother of Jesus, was called blessed among all women, not because of her marital status, but because of her faith. So why let the world define us by what we don't have instead of recognizing what God has already given us? Maybe today you find yourself wondering why your prayers for a husband haven't been answered. You may feel the weight of time, but remember, God does not operate with human clocks. The question is not, why am I still single? But Lord, what are you preparing me for? Singleness is not a punishment. It is a powerful season, a time to grow, learn, and walk in faith. And if God has set you apart for this stage, it is because there is a sacred reason. Don't let the voices of the world shake your confidence. Don't let loneliness push you to compromise your worth. And don't believe for a moment that you are less than a divine creation called to a greater purpose than you can now comprehend. Stay with me until the end of this message, because what is coming may be just what awakens the peace you have been seeking. The answer is not in finding the right man. The answer is in knowing the true God. And when you know him, everything else falls into place. There is no delay in God's plans, there is no error in his design, and there is no moment in your life that he has not seen, prepared, and consecrated for his glory. When a woman has remained single for too long, the world may try to convince her that something is wrong, that she has been overlooked, that time is slipping through her fingers like sand. But today I tell you with the authority of truth, there is no such thing as being late when you walk according to God's time. God is never late, never in a hurry, never confused about where you should be. The same God who ordered the stars, who regulates the sunrise and sunset, who formed the seasons, has not lost sight of you. If you're single today, it's not because there's something missing from you. It's because this time has been arranged for a greater purpose than the world can understand. See the stories of those who trusted in God's timing. Sarah, Abraham's wife, waited decades for the promise of a son. To the world it seemed that she had lost her chance. That time had left her behind. But God never left his story. He kept his promise at just the right time. Hannah, Samuel's mother, prayed desperately for a son. He waited, he cried, he begged. And the answer came at the perfect moment. Samuel became one of Israel's greatest prophets. In our waiting, we discover something that the world cannot understand. Delay is not denial. Waiting is not wasting time. God acts in his perfect timing, and when he does, it is always worth it. The world pressures women to believe that time is their enemy, that if they don't hurry, they'll miss their opportunity, that if they don't take charge, they'll be forgotten. But the Word of God says something different. He promises us that those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength, assures us that there is a time for everything under heaven. He teaches us that whoever trusts in him will not be put to shame. If you are single today, and it has been a long time, I want you to understand something deeply. God is not denying you something. He is preparing something for you. And not just any plan, but the right one. One that will satisfy you not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. A purpose that is not based on human ideas, but on divine wisdom. A story that one day will make you look back and say, "Now I understand, now I see." God's timing was always perfect. There's a misconception in the world that says a woman who is single for a long time is incomplete, that there's a void in her life that needs to be filled. But there's something the world isn't saying. Her singleness isn't a curse, it's a calling. It's not a sign of loneliness, but a stage of divine growth. It's a time where God is forming you, strengthening you, and preparing you for something much greater than what you can see today. Too often, society portrays singleness as a waiting room, a place where you wait for the right person to come along. But what if it's not a waiting room? What if it's a training ground, a ground where God refines your character, strengthens your faith, and equips you for what's next? If you live out your single years just waiting for them to pass, you could miss the greatest opportunity God has given you to become the woman He has called. Think of the women of the Bible, who went through seasons of loneliness. Ruth lost her husband and was left in a foreign land with nothing but her faith and her mother-in-law. The world would have called her broken, abandoned, a widow with no future. God sees with different eyes. In a reflection that Francis shared in an intimate homily with women who had spent years silently praying for direction, he spoke about how a woman's heart truly blossoms not in pursuit of what the world expects of her, but in humbly and trustingly following God's will. Francis tenderly recalled the figure of Ruth, a woman who did not wear herself out chasing a human promise, but in her silent fidelity, tilling the land and cultivating faith in the simplest moments, was transformed. And when God's time came, Boaz appeared not as a reward for his waiting, but as a consequence of his dedication to the eternal. And Mary Magdalene, the one who followed Jesus without reservation, was not remembered for her marital status, but for her radical dedication. It was she who remained at the foot of the cross when many fled, the first to see the risen Lord. Her life did not revolve around a human longing, but around her divine mission. Therefore, if you have been lonely for some time, do not allow this time to be filled with bitterness or self-pity. This is fertile ground for your growth. It is the time for you to become that woman who walks with a firm step, who recognizes her value in Christ, who no longer settles for less than what God has prepared. Learn something new. Nourish your faith. Serve. Discover that calling that has been placed upon you and that is not dependent on any earthly ties. Because the truth is this: if you are not complete in Christ now, marriage will not achieve that either. Loneliness is not an absence of people, it is an absence of purpose. But when you walk within God's purpose, when you accept this time as a stage of maturation and not as a burden, you discover that life does not begin tomorrow. You are already living it. There is something profoundly strong in a woman who knows who she is, who does not allow the voices of the world to define her. The world will insist on tell her she is alone, that she's missing something, that her life is incomplete without a partner. But a woman set apart by God has another wisdom. She understands that her strength is not in a gold wedding band, but in her relationship with the one who created her. A woman who has been without a partner for years is not a forgotten woman. She is a woman chosen for something greater. God is molding her, strengthening her in the hidden, where human eyes cannot reach. While others seek fleeting gratification, she builds on rock. While others choose what is easy, she waits for what is right. Think of Esther. Before she was queen, she was just a young Jewish woman in a land that didn't recognize her worth, but God had set her apart. He didn't place her in the palace for comfort or titles, but for a mission. And when the time came, she stood before the king, risking everything for her people. She didn't need a husband to be brave. Her faith was enough. Or remember Deborah, the judge of Israel, a woman in a time ruled by men, but who led firmly, with wisdom, leading an entire nation. Scripture doesn't need to mention a husband to validate her calling. It was God who chose her, and that was enough. So if you're a woman who has spent a lot of time single, don't see yourself as lacking. Recognize yourself as chosen, as someone being formed for a purpose that transcends marriage. Use this time to put down deep roots, to widen your faith, to walk toward what God has entrusted to you. The enemy will want you to believe you're incomplete, that something's missing, that you haven't yet begun to live. But God whispers another truth. You are already strong, you are already equipped, you already walk with purpose. Strength doesn't depend on who accompanies you, but on who dwells within you. And when you understand that, you'll know that your singleness is not a time of passive waiting, but of divine empowerment. You are not simply waiting, you are moving forward. You have not been forgotten, you are being prepared. You are not alone. You have been set apart for something far greater than you can imagine. For too many for years, society has planted a lie in the hearts of women that without marriage they are incomplete, that if they have been single for too long, something is wrong with them. These silently repeated phrases have fueled insecurity and doubt. But today is the time to remember the truth. The world is wrong. God never defined a woman's worth by her marital status. He never intended her purpose to depend on a date on the calendar or a ceremony. From the beginning, He created them with intelligence, strength, and dignity, not as missing pieces, but as a full reflection of His image. Let's look at the world around us. Francis has shared on more than one occasion how the fear of loneliness can become a silent trap for many women. In one of his reflections, he recalled how many times he has seen courageous women make hasty decisions, not out of conviction, but out of fear that time would pass them by. He has also compassionately noted that too often this fear has led them into relationships that offered more tears than joy, and not because they didn't deserve better, but because the voice of the world was louder than the whisper of the Spirit. Peer pressure is relentless. It silences God's voice with empty promises. But today is a time to remember that there is only one voice that truly matters, that of the Creator. There is only one plan worth following, His. The Scriptures show us examples of women who defied what culture demanded of them. Mary, Martha's sister, did not choose the kitchen, but wisdom by sitting at Jesus' feet. The Samaritan woman, upon finding Christ at the well, did not hide from her story, but became one of the first to share the gospel. These women were not defined by a ring on their finger, but by a deep relationship with the Lord. So why do we allow culture to dictate a woman's worth? Why do we accept the lie that a woman who is single for a long time is less than? The world screams, but God's truth resonates louder. You are enough. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are exactly where you are meant to be. A woman who walks in God's purpose does not need approval of the environment. Her value doesn't depend on a sentimental bond. She has already been chosen, loved beyond measure, and completely blessed. The moment she frees herself from the lies of the world, she awakens to the certainty that her life isn't on hold. It's moving forward according to God's heart. A woman's value isn't in her last name, in whether she shares her life with someone, or in the brilliance of a wedding ring. But the world insists on repeating that a woman's ultimate goal is to get married. From a young age, they are taught to dream of a white dress, to prepare for a husband, to see the future through the eyes of a wife. And although marriage is sacred and beautiful, it doesn't define any woman's existence. Her calling, her essence, her destiny don't begin or end with a man. They begin and end with God. Let's look at the women of the Bible who made their mark not by whom they loved, but by how they lived in God. Lydia, a merchant in the New Testament, is remembered for her generosity and faith, not by her marital status. It was she who opened her home for the advancement of the gospel. Anna, the prophetess, did not spend her days seeking companionship, but rather worshiping, interceding, and waiting for Israel's redemption. Her faithfulness made her a key witness to the Messiah. It wasn't marriage that gave her meaning, it was her faith. If a woman's purpose depended exclusively on marriage, what would we say then about those who do not marry? What meaning would there be for widows, those consecrated to the ministry, or those who simply walk another path? God does not create meaningless lives. Every woman has a mission. Some will walk with a life partner, others will do so hand in hand with their faith, but none of these paths is lesser. Believing that one can only live fully by someone's side can cause many women to waste years waiting for what they already have: life, purpose, calling. They hold back their dreams, postpone their obedience. They imagine that true existence begins when that person arrives. But the Lord never asked us to put our present on hold for a future that only He controls. His word invites us to serve now, seek Him now, act now. A woman's purpose is not in an uncertain tomorrow. It's right here at this very moment. If you've been single for a while, don't think you're waiting for life to begin. Life is happening. God is using you. Your calling is in motion. Marriage may or may not be part of your story, but it doesn't define the greatness of what God is doing in you. The heart of a woman who has been single for a long time knows a silent battle, the one fought between faith and fear. Fear whispers, what if no one ever comes? And what if something in me isn't right? What if it was already too late? But faith responds firmly, God's plan is good, His timing is perfect, and in it I lack nothing. Fear enslaves, pushes us to choose from emptiness, not from wisdom. It leads us to accept relationships that don't honor God for the simple fear of not being accompanied. It injects anxiety, insecurity, doubt. But let's not forget, fear does not come from God. The scripture says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of self-control." According to Timothy 1:7, if fear is what makes your decisions, you've listened to the wrong voice. Faith, on the other hand, is serene trust in what is unseen. It is the certainty that even when we don't understand the timing, God continues to pray. Faith doesn't eliminate uncertainty. It doesn't erase the nights of wondering, but it is what drives you to keep walking, believing that God's best is always worth the wait. Let's remember Sarah when she let fear guide her steps. She tried to hasten the promise by giving Hagar to Abraham. The result: pain, division, and consequences that marked generations. The promise came, yes, but in God's time, not hers. If she had waited with faith, she would have avoided many tears. Ruth, on the other hand, did not let fear dominate her. She remained faithful in the field, trusting that God would take care of her destiny. And so it was. Esther did not remain silent either. She dared to act in faith, and her courage changed the history of a people. Again and again, the Bible reminds us that when women trust in God over fear, the fruits exceed any expectation. The world says, "Run, your train is leaving." God says, "Be still and know that I am God." The world cries out, and if no one ever arrives, God has whispered to the hearts of many women with words that, as Francis recalled in one of his most intimate reflections, are not simply promises, but anchors of the soul. "I will never leave you or forsake you." In the midst of a world that screams that you are late, Francis tenderly insisted that each one is right where she should be, under the loving gaze of the one who arranges all things wisely. So, will you allow fear to guide you, or will you walk in the light of faith? Will you accept the lies the world proclaims, or will you cling to God's eternal promises? The reality is that when you choose faith over fear, you will never regret it. God's best never comes in a hurry, and when it does, every moment of waiting will have meaning. Dear sister, if you have been alone for a long time, engrave this on your heart. Your life has not stopped. Your purpose is not on pause. Your worth is not dependent on a ring or a ceremony. You are not invisible. You are not behind. You are not behind. You are exactly where God has ordained for you, walking in a sacred season, laden with meaning, growth, and eternal significance. Even if the world tries to convince you that you are lacking something, God sweetly affirms, "You are complete in me." Even if society pressures you with the idea that time is running out, God assures you, "My timing is perfect." Even if many say that singleness is synonymous with loneliness, the Lord declares that it is a time of preparation, of being rooted in faith, of discovering the unique woman He has lovingly formed. Don't let fear dictate your steps. Don't allow culture to define your worth. Don't waste these years waiting for life to begin when God is already inviting you to live it fully. Whether marriage is part of your path or not, your identity is not. It depends on it. Your purpose goes far beyond marital status, and your life is in the hands of a God who knows you, loves you, and has outlined a perfect plan for you. Walk firmly, advance with faith. Embrace this time with confidence, knowing that you are not waiting, you are growing. And when the appointed time comes, whether toward marriage or another calling, you will enter without regrets, with the certainty that you trusted God with every step, because His plans always surpass everything we could imagine, and when we trust in Him, we are never disappointed. May the Lord bless you, guide you, and remind you daily that you are never alone, you belong to Him. May the Lord bless you, guide you, and remind you daily that you are never alone, you belong to Him, and that is more than enough. There is a profound truth that often goes unnoticed in today's world. Francis, with his characteristic tenderness when speaking of the dignity of women, used to remind us that the feminine heart was not created to be a showcase open to anyone, but a sanctuary where mystery dwells. Sacred. On more than one occasion, Francis mentioned that a woman's wisdom is not measured by what she reveals, but by what she knows how to safeguard with love and prudence. We live in times in which total transparency is exalted. People are encouraged to tell everything, as if opening up without limits were a virtue. But God did not create women to be emptied by any man. He formed them as a hidden treasure, a bearer of wisdom, capable of discerning what she should share and what she should keep silent. Many women today feel exhausted, confused, or heartbroken, not because they are fragile, but because they gave too much to someone who did not know how to receive. That is why it is necessary to recover the art of silence, the power of reserve, the strength to protect what is most intimate, not out of distrust, but out of love for herself and for the plan God has for her life. Today I will tell you about 7 aspects that a woman should keep secret from a man, not as an act of deception, but as a way of honoring the beauty, power, and anointing that God has placed in her. Her interior. If you stay until the end, I promise that this reflection will transform the way you see yourself and your relationships. Are you ready? A woman's strength is manifest not only in what she reveals, but also in what she decides to keep to herself. In a world that insists everything must be said, we must rediscover that mystery is not concealment, but wisdom. Knowing when to speak and when to remain silent is a grace. The woman who understands this truth walks with a distinct elegance, moves with confidence, not because she hides something out of fear, but because she has understood that not everything is shared. From the beginning, God conceived of woman with a depth destined to be valued, not exploited. Her heart is a wellspring of emotions, dreams, and teachings, but if she gives everything away at once, she runs the risk of trivializing what is most valuable. How many have confided their most intimate wounds to a man who then left without understanding the weight of that act? How many have revealed their deepest fears only to later regret having shown their soul to someone who was not ready to welcome it? The true value of a woman is not in what she reveals, but in the wisdom with which she decides to take care of what is hers. There is immense beauty in restraint. Today's culture associates love with total exposure, but true love also implies respect, and respect requires limits. No woman should feel obligated to share every thought, every scar, every fear as proof of affection or fidelity. Authentic love does not demand undressing emotionally without measure. It respects discretion. The strongest women are those who have learned to value their words and guard their hearts, not handing them over to the first comer. This isn't about manipulation, it's about preserving. There are aspects a man doesn't need to know, not because they are a source of shame, but because they are sacred. The past, silent prayers, dreams yet to be spoken aloud are realities that, if shared without discernment, can be misinterpreted, mistreated, or used as a weapon. Not every man has the capacity to receive the fullness of the feminine soul. A wise woman knows to whom to open certain spaces in her life and to whom not to. When a woman understands this teaching, her presence, she changes. She no longer needs to justify herself at every step. She no longer seeks approval through hasty confessions. She finds peace in knowing that her silence is not fear, but wisdom. She transforms into a woman of serene strength, whose confidence inspires genuine respect. Her faith and deepest convictions are the center of her being, and those pillars should not be shaken by a sentimental attachment. In a world that constantly invites us to give up what we hold dear to please others, a believing woman is called to remain steadfast in what she believes. No man, no matter how charming or persuasive he may seem, should have the power to shake the foundations of her soul. Faith is not just a set of ideas. It is a guiding light in the midst of storms. If a woman allows a man to determine her relationship with God, she risks losing the very source of her strength. Many have strayed from their path by trying to adapt their spirituality to a relationship. Perhaps he doesn't share her faith, and so she downplays it to avoid conflict. Perhaps he ridicules her values, and she begins to doubt their importance. Slowly, almost without realizing it, he begins to give in on aspects that he also thought of negotiating. She stops attending Mass to spend time with him. He reduces his prayer times. He avoids talking about his faith in everyday conversations, and without realizing it, the flame that burned inside him begins to go out. Francis, in one of his reflections, recalled that a woman's faith is like a delicate flame nurtured between her hands and the heart of God. No one, not even human love, should blow it out. He himself has said that when a woman stops praying to please another, she runs the risk of distancing herself from the one who would never leave her, the Lord. A woman's faith is intimate, it is sacred, it is not up for debate, nor is it negotiated, nor is it weakened by the influence of any man. Those who truly love honor their convictions and do not challenge them, respects her relationship with God, and encourages her to grow in spirit, not to distance herself from him. A man who mocks or belittles a woman's faith is someone who does not value what lies deep within her soul. Thinking that a woman must sacrifice her faith to keep a man by her side is a mistake that brings pain. A relationship born from spiritual weakness has no solid foundation. She must carefully nurture her connection with God, because it is from there that her wisdom, strength, and ability to discern spring. When she lives rooted in her faith, she has clarity to see whether that man brings her closer to the Lord or distances her from his presence. She will not be easily deceived by empty words or promises that contradict actions, and will have the courage to walk away from that which threatens her spiritual well-being. Your faith isn't something you need to justify or explain. It's part of your essence. It guides your decisions. It marks your path. If a man cannot accept that, then he is not the one God has prepared for her. Your past, with everything you've experienced, is not a bargaining chip or a forced confession. It is part of his journey full of trials, lessons, and healed wounds. Not everything needs to be told, nor is everyone prepared to listen maturely to what a woman has gone through. They are often required to talk about their past relationships, mistakes made, and pain experienced, under the guise of transparency. But wisdom, as Frances has taught on more than one occasion, knows how to keep silent when silence protects. Those moments don't define her, they polished her. God's grace covers the past, and if he has forgiven, no man has the right to point the finger in judgment. You shouldn't feel pressured to recount every fall for others to consider you trustworthy. There are things that belong only to her and to God. There are men who, upon receiving more than they know how to handle, end up using that information as a weapon. What began as an innocent conversation about the past can turn into an open wound in the midst of a conflict. You did it before, why not now? How can you trust yourself if you've been with someone like that? A woman should not give ammunition to someone who does not have the heart to protect it. A mature man, with true love, does not demand to know everything. He is more interested in the woman she is today than in the mistakes she may have made yesterday. Besides, the past also holds pain. There are wounds that take years to heal, and talking about them too soon or to the wrong person can reopen them. Not every man will understand the depth of his story, nor do they all deserve it. Healing is an intimate process and should not be rushed or exposed to please anyone. She must remember that it is not what she experienced that defines her. When that man who comes from God arrives, he will see in her her strength, her wisdom, and the grace that sustained her. You won't need an inventory of her past to love her completely in the present. She must trust that the one destined to walk by her side will accept her for who she is now, without holding her accountable for what is behind her. Your dreams are sacred, whispers from God in your soul, longings that fuel your purpose and give meaning to your days. But not all dreams should be spoken aloud, nor do all men deserve to know them. She has to learn to protect them because if shared hastily or with someone who doesn't understand, they can be distorted, belittled, or destroyed. Many have shared their dreams with a man and have been met with disbelief, discouragement, or ridicule. A man who doesn't see beyond the immediate, who doesn't have faith in a woman's potential, can become an obstacle. You can tell her she's dreaming too high, that she doesn't have what it takes, and if she isn't firm in her faith, she may come to believe you. She may silence her inner voice, lower her aspirations, and extinguish that flame that once burned brightly. But a wise woman knows that her dreams are not for everyone. Some must mature in silence, sustained by faith and perseverance before being shared. They are seeds of eternity that require time and solitude. If they are revealed too soon, the world may not understand them. When speaking of the depth of the feminine heart, Frances often recalls that there are gifts that can only flourish when cultivated in silence and prayer. In one of his meetings with women who have undergone inner healing processes, Frances shared that not every seed should be exposed to the elements, because some only germinate under God's light. Sometimes those who approach her do not do so with bad intentions, but they fail to see what their eyes have seen in intimacy with the Lord. Others, driven by fear or envy, try to extinguish the flame that drives it. That is why a woman must have wisdom to take care of the sanctuary of her aspirations. Not every man is called to walk with her towards his destiny. He who truly loves her will not be intimidated by her dreams, but will embrace them as part of his essence. He will not try to reduce or transform it, but will long to see his desires come to life. Until she finds that companion who will accompany and defend her in her vision, it is better to keep certain dreams in the most intimate place of her soul, where only God sees and nourishes them, far from the voices that judge. Her strength is one of the most powerful gifts she possesses, but she is not meant to show it always or to everyone. There is a quiet power in resilience, in gracefully enduring storms, in standing firm without needing to proclaim yourself. Not all men deserve to contemplate that strength in its fullness, nor is she obligated to show it. Some will value it, others will try to take advantage of it. Feminine wisdom teaches her that her strength is not proven to others because she has no need to prove anything. Often, women fall into the habit of carrying everything in relationships, solving problems, supporting the emotions of both parties, maintaining balance, even when they are broken inside. She silences her pain. She gives herself without reservation, convinced that her ability to resist will earn her love and respect. But the wrong man will only take advantage of that surrender. He will lean on his strength without offering support, believing he can carry the weight of two lives without wavering, without understanding that even the strongest need shelter. There is a difference between being strong and being invulnerable. No woman should pretend she doesn't need help, that she doesn't feel exhausted, that she doesn't sometimes wish someone would walk beside her. Being strong doesn't mean closing yourself off to help. It's knowing when to rest, when to lean on God, and when to walk away from what's consuming you. You must protect your strength from those who only seek to use it. Some men, seeing her independence, will think that she doesn't need tenderness, care, or listening. They'll say, she can do it all, and they'll use it as an excuse to ignore your emotional needs. But she in her wisdom knows that not everything she can bear should be revealed, because if she does, she will end up carrying more than her fair share. True strength is woven with discernment, knowing when to open up and when to stand firm, knowing who deserves to know the depths of their soul and who doesn't. Protect your energy from those who drain it, remembering that she was not created to carry the weight of the world alone. You should never allow anyone to trivialize your strength, because your power lies not in how much you can endure, but in your freedom to let go. His heart is sacred ground, where dreams, fears, love, and the most secret thoughts live. But not every emotion, intention, or desire should be given to another. There are corners of her soul that belong only to her and God. Not because it hides something bad, but because prudence teaches us that not everything should be said. You must guard the true intentions of your heart because they are treasures, and in the wrong hands they can be misinterpreted, disregarded, or used against you. Many believe that sincerity in love requires laying bare every thought, every fear, every desire. But not every man is prepared to receive the depth of his soul. Some listen without hearing, others dismiss their fears with empty words, and others, even without malice. They use what she trusts to dominate her. That's why you should be careful with who you open the doors of your privacy to. Sometimes silence weighs more than 1,000 words. Your emotions are legitimate, but they shouldn't always be exposed. Sometimes it is wiser to let your life speak for itself. The man who truly loves her will read her heart through her behavior, her serene gaze, the peace that radiates from her presence. You don't need to justify your value with long emotional speeches. The wrong man will want to know everything, not to protect her, but to control her soul. Will ask about your past, your fears, your deepest desires, not to take care of them, but to have control over them. But she knows that the deepest part of her spirit is not for everyone. Frances used to reflect on the inner dignity of women with a tenderness that disarmed all judgment. In her words, there was always a profound recognition that the feminine soul holds a beauty that does not need to be displayed to be real. For Frances, the woman who protects his heart is not distant or cold, but rather someone who has understood, through faith, that her emotions have immense value and should not be given away lightly. In his pastoral view, Francis saw this reserve not as a barrier, but as a form of strength. The woman who walks with wisdom knows that true love is not measured by how many words are spoken, but by how it is lived in silence, with gestures that come from the soul. She trusts that the right man will recognize that sacred language, respect her timing, honor her boundaries, and guard with God-fearing care the parts of her heart she chooses to share. It does not give itself away easily because what it holds inside is not common, it is sacred. A woman is not an open book for anyone who passes by. It is a mystery revealed by heaven, a treasure carved with divine wisdom. In a world that insists that showing everything is a sign of sincerity, the woman who knows true love knows that some truths must be kept, guarded, and offered only when there is true trust. Its power is not in what it counts, but in what it discerns and preserves. Her past doesn't define her, and not every man deserves to delve into it. Your faith is not negotiable. Your dreams remain the secret of your heart until the time comes to share them. Her strength is not meant to hold anyone back, and her deepest emotions are not meant to be displayed without purpose. There is a spiritual strength in discretion and a nobility that flourishes in silence. The woman who has understood this truth walks differently. She doesn't need to constantly explain herself. She doesn't seek approval, opening her soul to those who do not value it. He does not hand over the keys to his interior to those who have not proven themselves worthy of them. Instead, she moves with a quiet peace, radiating firmness, wisdom, and grace. May you walk with discernment, remain firm in hope, and never forget that the most precious treasures are hidden until the right moment with the right person and in trustworthy hands. If this message has spoken to your heart, I invite you to leave a comment and share what touched you most. Your voice can be a light for another woman who needs to hear this truth. Don't forget to like this post if it's blessed you, and subscribe to continue receiving words that strengthen your soul. May you continue to walk wisely, keeping what is most valuable secret until the time comes to give it away with purpose. See you in the next message. He does not seek approval by opening his soul to those who do not value it. He does not hand over the keys to his interior to those who have not proven themselves worthy of them. Instead, she moves with a quiet peace, radiating firmness, wisdom, and grace. May you walk with discernment, remain firm in hope, and never forget that the most precious treasures are hidden until the right moment with the right person and in trustworthy hands. If this message has spoken to your heart, I invite you to leave a comment and share what touched you most. Your voice can be a light for another woman who needs to hear this truth. Don't forget to like this post if it's blessed you, and subscribe to continue receiving words that strengthen your soul. May you continue to walk wisely, keeping what is most valuable secret until the time comes to give it away with purpose. See you in the next message.